why this is so important. The proverbial sketch on a napkin, right? The hand wavy to express an idea. Or let me explain this to you. Like, I'm not communicating. Let me go into the whiteboard and do that. The fact that the machinery of AI now meets you there in this type of model, it's so human and exciting. So let's start unpacking this. Welcome to the Generation AI podcast, where we demystify artificial intelligence in the world of higher education. And boy, we have a lot to talk about higher education today. I am your host, JC Bonilla, joined by my friend, the CEO of Element, Ardis Kadiu. How you doing, pal?
Hey, JC, doing great, man. How are you?
Good. I did not go superficial, the amazing, the incredible. I just kind of stay around your LinkedIn profile, buddy.
That's it. That's it. Just a summary of my LinkedIn profile. What model did you use to get that?
Oh my gosh, right now I'm using the 47-year-old model that is all beat up with a little bit of a cough. That's the model that we're in right now. I'm recuperating from a cough, and it just, don't recoup as fast as I as used to. So in terms of model, bringing it to self, that's how I'm doing.
Maybe the audience would appreciate your deeper voice.
My deeper voice, man, maybe we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, artists, we have a fun episode today. And actually, speaking of voice, we're going to be talking a little bit about what voice is doing in certain sectors like the film industry. But I'm excited about today. Should we jump in?
Yeah, so today we have a couple of updates and a couple of news stories, and then we're going to dive into our main story. So our main story today is going to be around O3 and some of the reasoning models, the multimodal reasoning models from OpenAI that have been dropped over the last couple of weeks, and we've had a chance to kind of play around with them, and a huge opportunity there. But we wanted to also bring two stories that are very top of mind for us, and they're happening in the news today. One of them is around the executive order on AI and K-12 education use that dropped this week, and we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit, what it means, what it is. And then the second one is a very fun story that kind of they're both kind of related, right? And this is from the Oscars and the Academy Awards, essentially recognizing that they're not going to discriminate against works that are using AI as part of those films. So both of these two stories kind of correlate together in the sense that they're providing legitimacy to AI as a tool and as a, something that is both needed in education and also in the creative endeavors of creators and filmmakers here as well. So it's two very positive stories, I would say.
Let's unpack a little bit of them. So let me kick off with the executive order from President Trump on April 23rd, right? The executive order advancing artificial intelligence education for youth comes to us. It's exciting. It touches on all things education, K-12, and probably going to go there higher, but also higher education. And it puts the White House in front of the center with a task force to oversee indirect funding, right, federal funding, towards AI literacy, resourcing that will probably prioritize teaching and training and a lot of apprenticeship. So really interesting. I think we called it last time that AI readiness and literacy, it's in the comment, but now that the government has made the claim, it's a big signal in terms of what it means for competitive advantage and U.S. global competitiveness as it relates to AI technology. What are your takes on this one, Artist?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited that this is actually it's a step in the right direction. It's essentially a stamp of approval that says AI in the classroom is no longer something to be feared about, and it kind of pushes some of the administrators on individual schools and even in the classroom to say, okay, this is now something that's we want to move towards. To be honest, I look at my kids' school and they have been in a place where the 60% of the US schools from 2024 are where they have banned AI in the classroom use. They have also banned it from students using it as well. My kids had to sign a letter, or they had to sign, essentially a statement saying that I will not use AI in my homework and so on and so forth. And these are the tools that I will not use, which kind of goes very, very counterintuitive to what we're seeing today in terms of AI being used for teaching and for learning and so on and so forth. And what that has created, by the way, is a fear in my kids that anytime that they use AI on anything school related, it is absolutely, wrong. And as soon as I tell them, hey, let's just go through and explore this problem together, and I pull up ChatGPT so he can kind of produce explanations and he can produce some charts and other things, they automatically shut down. They're like, no, no, we can't use that. We can't use that for our homework. We can't. This is not right. So it's creating a mental block for students that AI equals bad, and perhaps that is the biggest outcome that I see this executive order is for administrators and teachers to kind of change their mindset towards AI in the classroom.
A long do overhaul. And on our meeting notes, I really like how we labeled this, right? It challenges the cheating narrative, right? What that means, it's, yeah, as you mentioned, there's fear, sometimes lack of understanding of ignorance from many of our professionals in teachers that not knowing how to use it and how it impacts the classroom. So the easiest thing to do, it's block, don't use it, and the mental signals, as you mentioned, like it brings to the kid that like you should not use it, and it's like X, don't go there. So it's a much needed opening in terms of willingness to go there. But now, as you become what you measure, as funding incentivizes, right? And then federal funding is going to come and say it has to be in the classroom. I'm excited about how teaching, pedagogy, kids, and some of the things that we've been talking about around critical thinking are going to be starting to be solved. Why? Because for those of us who have been without the fear and using it, there's the aspect of it's AI removing or challenging the critical thinking. And I think now that if it comes early on age, we're going to start seeing a new developmental aspect on our youth that will translate to generations to come. Really, really good call.
Yeah. The teaching, providing resources for teachers, I think that's a huge one. Training and AI literacy and teaching, providing those resources, great.
What's your take on global competitiveness? I mean, this is a signal. And I think that we've been seeing this administration go macho and big guns on we own AI, right? And I think when you bring it to the classroom, in terms of human capital, when you bring it to the most foundational building block of human talent, which is basically, elementary school, we're saying we're here not only to compete, we're here to dominate. How do you see it the same way or differently?
I do see it in a way as a first step.
Oh, okay.
Our education system on K through 12 is not, globally competitive, and
I see.
it's very patchy, meaning that it's very localized. So there's certain districts at the school level, at the district level, at the state level, you have very different inconsistencies on how that gets. So globally overall, I feel we're not competitive, and we has to be a must in order for our kids to just at least not have this as a blocker. But if you think about it, it's like China's kids, they're building AI while our kids are really sneaking ChatGPT in the classroom, right?
Interesting.
We can't fumble this one.
Yeah, and it's a fair point. I was seeing it from and actually that's a whole conversation, right? Which is, to your point, by introducing AI, does that mean that global competitiveness as it relates to educational milestones and metrics and standardized exams that we compete, because we have not been doing great there? I was kind of seeing it from a point of view of innovation and how human capital competes, but super fair. Let's move to the next one. In the Oscars category, right? Sometimes we have seen that there is a reward for the introduction of computer graphics, UGI, right? And it's a whole section, animation and whatnot. But AI unpacks a totally different playbook. Actors in the art of acting can be enhanced with looks and feels and motions, voice, and it's been a source of tension of how AI augments the creative process and how natural it could be. So the fact that the Academy has made a statement that they do not care about the deployment of AI on the process, it's a big one. It's a big one. So what's your take on this one?
Yeah, just as a recap, like the news is that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, right? So that, AKA the Academy or the Oscars or whatever you want to call it, they have updated their rules for the 98th Oscars, basically stating that films using generative AI and other digital tools are eligible for awards, with the use of AI neither helping nor harming a film's chances of nomination. Meaning that you're no longer, so if it uses AI, it shouldn't be seen as a negative or as a positive. But however, they emphasize that awards will be judged based on the degree of human involvement in the creative process, prioritizing human driven artistry. So, yes, the AI is not, it's going to be in there, but still they are going to look at the creative process and prioritizing the human driven artistry. So, again, this has been now a debate that's been part of the past couple of years now. It's just now a validation or a official proof that AI or generative AI belongs in the creative endeavor of course, art, filmmaking, but also in a lot of other places. Where you see this, JC, this was really interesting. There was a debate basically sparked by The Brutalist. I don't know. Have you seen that movie where Adrian Brody Hungarian accent got kind of amplified, and they use generative AI. They use some of the models to essentially change the tone and change the accent, so it kind of matches better, which was great, by the way.
I only saw the clips, from the words and whatnot, right? The denomination, and I had no idea that there were some voice augmentation. So, and obviously, good for them. I'm excited that this type of thing it's used, and then maybe the application here is starting next week. You will not pick an accent from me anymore because I'm just gonna have all my voice being the accent. It's exciting. Artists, the creative. We've been talking about this since we started this podcast a year and a half ago, right? The push that this new wave of AI brings on the creative sector, it's big. And this ecosystem of creative landscapes, whether it's film, Oscars, theater, and whatnot, will continue to be challenged. And I'm glad that the Academy has made a claim. Perfect or imperfect, it's the natural evolution. So I'm excited about that.
So two stamps of approval, right? On AI entering the mainstream, AI becoming part of our education system and how we learn and how we teach our kids. And then another one essentially saying that AI now is validated and it can be used as a powerful transformative tool for creative people and leveraging that.
We've been telling you all along. We've been telling you all along.
This is great. Yeah, these are both very positive news for us.
We also have a slight update on our frontier models. So, Artis, you want to take on this one? Two important drops, and really quickly, what is coming from the Google family and what is coming from the X Grok family?
Yeah, so let's tie this all together, right? Where we are today is essentially we wanted to talk about all three, which is OpenAI's latest model, but also Google as well as Grok have dropped reasoning models as well, like this lighter weight reasoning models. So the intelligence and the pricing continues to go down on the intelligence, and the reasoning models are becoming more and more of a mainstream while the cost is tremendously going down. However, today, OpenAI O3 is kind of the multimodal marvel, so to speak, that's just not processing text or images. It's really reasoning with them. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, yes, there's been other advancements, and yes, other labs have dropped it, but today we're going to focus specifically on all three as part of that deep dive.
Yeah, all in concert for the race of AI continues, and these are all about scalable agents. So everybody remember that the agent evolution, the product drops, the advancement continues. From this recording, OpenAI drops O3 and O4 mini. Can we please change our names, artists? Can we please do that?
Man, it's like even Sam Altman has called it out and said, "Hey, we're gonna fix the naming convention by
Please.
summer." It's the worst naming convention ever. It's like 4004. It's like I don't even know what to call these things. It's
I know. So O3, O4, aka multimodal reasoning, autonomous frontier models that enable sophisticated problem solving with images, text, and tools. Artists, this is a big drop, and as you call it, is a new marvel because what we're starting to see is a departure from that conversational aspect of the chatbot, right, to the idea of thinking naturally with images in ways in which we humans produce, right? And before we go into the unpacking here, why this is so important, the proverbial sketch on a napkin, right? The hand wavy to express an idea. Or let me explain this to you. Like, I'm not communicating. Let me go into the whiteboard and do that. The fact that the machinery of AI now meets you there, and this type of model, it's basically the accelerator. It's so human and exciting, and that's why this is a big marvel, as you mentioned. So let's start unpacking this.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, why is this important or kind of we're in a world we've been talking a lot about agents this year and agentic AI. So what makes agents and agentic AI and really, really possible is reasoning. So remember that reasoning is one of those things that make it possible. And this models, the better they are at reasoning, the better agents can be. And it requires a sophistication that, like, the capabilities of those reasoning capabilities are what's driving the agent revolution today. And we're getting better models or better brains that are feeding them, and they're making them better, right? But the cost needs to come down, and also the ability for these agents to now reason not just with text but images and so on and so forth. Like, that's why this is so important, right? And today, OpenAI flagship reasoning model, which was launched, in mid-April, really excels at a lot of different things, right? It excels at coding. One of the things we've talked about is this coding agents, like, for example, Cursor or Lovable or Bolt, and some of these other models that or websites that we called out, JC. It excels at math, science, and also visual reasoning, right? So one of the things that's really powerful here is that you can provide an image and then you can ask it a reasoning question about that image, and it will zoom in and zoom out to different areas, and it will figure out what you're asking, and it will reason through that particular image. So it processes text, images, and code in a kind of a unified reasoning framework. So think about it, how our brains work. We reason with images, we reason with text, we reason with voice. It's exactly the same thing that's happening here. So these models now can reason about, and you can have like a napkin sketch, or you can describe a concept or a visually with text. It will essentially use those two concepts the same way, right? Just like we would. So if we see something or if we read something, we can visualize it and picture it, and we can reason it that way. So that's the big connection here, because now this makes available a lot of different workflows, things like the ability to kind of reason about design and reason about spatial, and we can give it pictures and we can say, hey, where do you see things wrong? So it makes a lot of different applications available. We'll talk more about those applications a little bit later on.
Yeah. The O3 and O4 mini models also, in terms of performance, have introduced a shift in the model performance that we have been seeing. It's really interesting to report that as per the data that we've seen, basically we're starting to see a doubling every 7 months in terms of model performance as relates to the tasks an AI can do, and now has been trying to 4 months, right? And it's double acceleration. Your point of the cost to produce this not catching up, but in terms of the ability to reason at speed and increase all these components, we're starting to see that in O3.
Yeah. There's a chart from AI Digest that that I'm looking at. And essentially what it shows is, if you remember, one of the things that we talked about earlier in the year or even last year is the capability of these AIs to do tasks that can take 1 minute to 5 minutes to 1 hour to 5 hours to a day and so on and so forth. And the way that they can do that is by breaking things down and reasoning about them and looping and continuing that work to be longer and longer. And what we're seeing in this chart is that the acceleration of these models to essentially think for a really long time equates to more and more complex tasks that they can accomplish, human tasks. So that's now O3 is at the top of that list, where it can reason up to 1.5 hours or even longer, up to 2 hours in some cases, and essentially producing tokens and thinking through and reasoning about that particular problem. So amazing the length of that reasoning.
One more thing that I'd like to mention on the technical deployment, it's very interesting to see the dual drop. O3 as the kind of deep multimodal reasoning, right? And its companion, O4 Mini, again, the naming convention not being perfect, but it's just that lightweight, kind of real time for applications. So it's what you're starting to see is we give you the mighty all powerful and the one that can be packaged on your phone, so you get the best of both worlds, right? So interesting deployment. We'll see if this type of operationalization on frontier models continues. So you always get the big one and the lightweight. Anything else on the technical aspect that you wanted to mention? Anything more like why is this multimodal or agent specific, Ardis?
Yeah, I mean, like, just to visualize it, now it's possible for, like, you can give it a maze, for example, and you can tell it solve this maze, and it will visually go through in each parts of that maze, and it will reason about, hey, if I go here, produce different paths, and then figure out what's the best path to get to the other side. So that's one thing that it's very capable of. The other part, JC, is that we had the O1 model last month or even before, and then we had some of these reasoning models, but essentially we had to use different models to produce images or to give it images and pictures or to use the web and use tools. With the O3 model coming on and using it in ChatGPT, what they have done is they have put a lot of those capabilities in the same model. So the model is reasoning through and thinking, okay, what type of tools do I need to use to solve this problem? Do I need to use a code interpreter? Do I need to go to the web and search the web to get more information? Do I need to use an image cropper so I can zoom into those images? So it's both now reasoning, it's using more and more tools, and it's kind of putting all those pieces together for us. So I can see how the next iteration of all four or even all five, we don't even have to think about like picking the right model from the ChatGPT model dropper. So right now I've been using all three quite a bit for most of my stuff, and then I'm just switching to the 4.0 model just so I can get a little bit more better writing, so to speak. But the O3 is really, really good. And it can do writing, it can do visual output, it can do all of those things.
So what we're talking about on this O3, O4 mini drops, right, is the merge of two worlds. Visual thinking, right? It allows us to do this visual thinking. It's very analogous to how us humans process visual assets, right? And tool integration. That last part, it's so important because, yeah, as you mentioned, right, many of us were going into 3 or 4 tools within the same ecosystem, OpenAI and whatnot, to basically get the orchestration of this is my thinking, this is the deep research, now give me the code, and now give me the chart, right? With tool integration, dynamically, we can start basically creating assets, and that production of I stay within the same prompt, the same environment, is very, very, very useful. Like you, I find myself switching between like my writing, specifically corporate writing, how you and I communicated with work, emails, customers. It's it's basically, what is the default on ChatGPT? Is it 4.0? 4.0, right? That's just basically I stay there.
4.0. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
it's basically it works for me really well, right? But this type of researchy thing where I'm gonna go and I know I'm gonna spend time prompting and generating assets. When I'm in ideation mode, I'm switching, and I haven't done the switch to O3, but this is where that behavior is starting to take place. And as it relates to tool integration, it's still almost there. It's still almost there, right? But I have to tell it, I'm prompting myself to say I'm going to do this type of task. So I select the right frontier model.
So how much of this have you been using, JC? So I mean, maybe just a temperature check. It's like, have you been using it at all, or like, are you thinking about?
O3, I just, for this show, right? So that's basically very front heavy commercial use, right? So I haven't gotten the, it doesn't do this for me.
You're in for a treat, man. You should. So you got to move to O3 if you want to, like, if you want to have truly, like, you can pose a question and you can give it text, you can draw something, you can give it a PDF, or even analyzing a whole, a whole agenda, for example, and you can say, okay, help me think through this. Here's some of the things I want to get out. It's going to reason through, and it's going to give you 10 times, 100 times responses that another human would have given you, that's an expert in that particular area. So it's a huge, huge difference between the one shot 4.0 and the O3 capabilities in here. So I've been using it for things like research, and I use deep research to do the research, and then I ask O3 to think through this and then apply to a particular scenario for us, right? For, in this case, the element business. The other thing that I use it for is, how do I evaluate, let's say, other decks for other companies and things like that around, businesses that we want to evaluate, things of that nature, even including our own internal decks sometimes, to kind of propose, hey, here's our talk track that we want to go through. Make sure that you research and you act as a really great communicator and a really great marketer, and come back with me and propose some campaign ideas around this. And it does that. And then we go back and forth talking about, okay, let's go ahead and execute. How would you visually execute these campaign ideas? And then he goes ahead and does that, and he gives me prompts, and it actually produces the final ad results as well around those campaign ideas. So you should try it for sure. I think once we get to the point around it, I got excited, and I'm just moving through. But
No, I love this. So two prompts, same prompt, two different models. So in O4, who am I? And it gives me a narrative of pretty good, right? You're JC, a father, Brooklyn, a strategic and operational brain. You're the CEO and head of AI, orchestrating company's growth, blah, blah, blah. So you start seeing these attributes that are pretty on the money. On O3, this is the interesting thing. It thought for 6 seconds, and it gave me a chart. It did not give me a paragraph. That was, and I don't know if he knows that I'm a chart person, right? It's very interesting that it's selected not to give me a paragraph, and it's basically by category and the snapshot. Categories are role, core mission, operational style, current place, personal KPIs, values in action, and outside the office. I wish I'd see my life this way.
you're going to get a lot of tables, right? Is that what you're saying?
I got a table, and the critical thinking on this one, that it basically gave an answer who I am, not a paragraph, but a summary of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attributes, which I actually hold dear. I'm impressed.
Yeah. If you haven't used it, I highly recommend you go use it.
Beyond the prompt, who am I?
Beyond the prompt, who am I? That's right. So you should definitely go use O3. And you can use it for coding, you can use it for analysis of PDFs, you can use it for images. You can now throw your designs from a design agency or whatever it is and say, hey, go, can you analyze and provide me feedback on your website, or provide me feedback on certain creatives, a strategy. So you can use it for a lot of different things, but highly recommend that you go ahead and use it.
A Brooklyn-based operator academic who scales businesses with AI, bakes bread for perspective, and tells data-backed stories for both boardrooms and bedtime audiences. Wow. Wow. All right. Let's go into practical applications, that competitive positioning, how it is different outside my own personal life, Artist. We have applications in marketing, agents, higher education, enrollment management. How do you want to lead?
Let's just go through all of them. Like,
All
let's just
right.
throw a whole bunch of applications. All right. So we talked about content
Mhm.
creation. So you can create ad copy. Amazing at creating ad copy. So you can give it your brand and you can give it your style guide, and it can create ad copy, very, very well. You can analyze campaign visuals because it's multimodal, right? So it reasons through and it thinks like, hey, how does this fit into my brand? How does it, does it match? Like, here's the things that so you can analyze visuals, and then you can suggest optimizations, right? You can also go out and do research and bring that research in and use those tools in order to provide that additional optimization suggestions. Data analysis, you can process marketing data sets like, ad spend, and then you can kind of coordinate that with the visuals now. So not only can you upload your data set, but you can also upload the visuals as part of that, and they can reason through that. So if you have a PDF or something along those lines.
Traditionally, the analyst play has been a bit constrained from the ability not to understand a data structure and things of that sort. So I think it's exciting because as it reads multimodal, it should be easier to kind of add that semantic layer that analysts are craving on structured data files. So I'm going to give this a really test and I'll report back. But I guess my punchline is the data analysis part has been lagging a bit because models don't really understand the labels that we use on the columns. And I think this is probably going to do much better.
Exactly. I think this is going to unlock a lot of those things that you'd expect. If you're kind of thinking about agents, like the agentic use cases, it really powers a lot of those agents that can reason about more like deeper searches, right? So think about all three can handle like querying the web, can analyze images, and then generate responses in just one simple workflow. So you don't have to kind of chain all those pieces together now. We're starting to start thinking about how to use it internally for our own tools, so we can make them a little bit more like smarter around, let's say, application decisioning and how does it reason through all those pieces. When you think about higher education, analyzing student personas, right? And analyzing your campaigns against those student personas. I think it's a huge improvement around that. Thinking about strategies on geographies and so on and so forth, this gives you a lot closer analyst ready output than GPT 4.0 because it's reasoning a lot faster and a lot more around it. Loading in your enrollment patterns, like, and even charts, because it's multimodal. Now it can read all of that and it can interpret charts. It can understand that. It can suggest, targeting, or even if you kind of upload a map and say, "Hey, here's my enrollment data and kind of here's my funnel," it will be able to do that as well.
Let me say a word on that, specifically on the strategic data-driven approach to enrollment management. Many of the leaders that I've encountered over our 2 decades here, artists, they struggle with the unstructured task. So what does it mean with that, right? Is that like, what event was a success? This event sucked, right? So like you start seeing just the output, the outcome, but the ability to come and critically starting to detect what was the trend, take a snapshot of the event and say like, why didn't this creative resonated with this database. That type of unstructured task, now it's very scalable with this type of application, right? Into the lens of reasoning, to the lens of the iterative process that emerges from this. Like you take a snapshot of the event and you bring the campaign is like, why was my attendance low relative to historical? And iterating, oh, this is what he finds. Can you go deeper here and there? That is something that has been very limited because what happens in the past is go into this file and analyze this cell, right? Or we've been doing this type of analysis and replication. So I think that's really exciting. Leaders start thinking about that data-driven strategy and unleash your unstructured requests here. So anyway,
You see, can I show you something really quick that I did the other day? Let me show
please.
you. Just so this is on the creative side. So what I entered in here is I basically put in a prompt. I created a little campaign and I said create this visual ad for, for Wire magazine, bold minimalist visuals. There's a clock on the wall showing 2500 or 25 hour 25, so on and so forth. So I just basically, this was a prompt that was generated by O1 when he built the actual campaign. And then, sorry, from O3. And then he went ahead and started thinking about this. And you can see the reasoning of what it's thinking through. And it actually created the graphic for me in the same model. So I went ahead and now I'm like, okay, how about the following tagline? And it went ahead and updated based on that as well. So you can see now you can go back and forth. The other part that I'm like, okay, I'm like, let's remove the Wired logo that it basically put a Wired magazine logo. I mean, that's weird. I don't know why I did that.
Because you called it for a wire style publication.
Wired magazine. Yeah, exactly. But what I did is I uploaded I uploaded the Element logo and our Bolt AI logo.
Icon, yeah.
And now I'm like, hey, just replace those logos. And he came back and actually
that's good.
Put that as a creative in here. What do you think?
Two things, right? Context, everybody. What Ardis is showcasing is some of the problems that we're trying to solve in the organization is how do we translate the impact of our AI agenda, digital workforce, to our partners. So by gaining an extra hour, it's like literally your creative thinking. So what I see is you have a creative brief that we can provide extra time and time, optimization, right? And then you have the kind of the tagline, but you don't know how to land the creative assets to complement it. And in 3 iterations, and I don't know how long it took to do all that, you went from a sketch to a refinement of the sketch. Then you brought brand pillar, like basically the brand style guide, the logos, and you made it into a production ready asset. Not asset, ad.
Yes. In a matter of minutes. And I was having so much fun with it the other day that I went ahead and essentially built a whole ad campaign for us over the last, like in a matter of like, I don't know, I spent like 2 hours on it because I was having so much fun with it.
Just to give a power of its ability to have unstructured tasks, what I just did is I loaded a very complicated Excel file that comes from our CFO, multiple tabs, thousands of functions and formulas behind the scenes. You got it, right? So Ardis, my prompt is, it's element healthy. So if you load the file and then it starts basically going through, this is not a file, the table, the tabular approach that it took, it's a combination of the multiple things. It selected the right metrics for success, what's working, the analysis, what needs attention, and what needs assessment. Ardis, you've been asking leadership to give you the why these are happening and kind of you lead into the triggers. These actually operated like a executive in your executive team. So did I just fire myself, man?
I think we're just going to end it at that one. So more and more of these complex tasks and more of these deep thinking tasks or intelligent tasks are getting done. And now that we have the ability for O3 to reason over images and visuals, you can throw anything at it, from PDFs to kind of reports to even Excel spreadsheets, and it can reason through and use tools to kind of extract that data. So it opens up so many different opportunities for us. And like I said, I've been using it for the past week, and I've been super amazed. If you haven't, go ahead and use it. We try to bring some practical capabilities here in this podcast, but we're going to keep talking more and more about these advancements over the next 6 months, and even during the summer. There's probably other models that are going to be part of these, the O4 model with even better reasoning capabilities, and we're introducing and incorporating this as part of our tools as well. The one last thing, JC, that for those folks who have not seen it yet, is perhaps one of the biggest releases, and we didn't have that slated for this podcast, but I want to highlight it in ChatGPT. If you use ChatGPT now, ChatGPT will use all of your prior conversations as context for future conversations. So if you remember, it actually used what it called memories, or it remembered certain things, but it was actually extracting those memories and putting them and then saving them. Now it will go back and it will kind of reference prior conversations that you had. So if you're always analyzing, for example, if you're always writing and analyzing things about your marketing strategy, you could have had a conversation all about your creative brief and so on and so forth, and then it would remember that and use it next time, so you don't have to repeat and put that context in there. This is amazing because it now truly opens up so many opportunities and capabilities, and we know that context is everything on these models. And as they get better at using more and more context and better data and reason more, having your prior conversations, it will actually know you better than anyone else, or it will know your workflow better than anyone else. So this is a little feature that was introduced very recently to ChatGPT, and it's gone unnoticed, but it enables so many personalization capabilities now for you. So your ChatGPT output will look very different from your coworkers. You'll look very different from your boss. You'll look very different from a lot of different people. So the more you use it, the more context you give it, the more thinking that you do, and the more workflows you put in there, the better it's going to know you and what you do.
Ardis, I think that wraps up our episode and show with this tagline, right? Whether it's through education, how we learn, how we think and communicate as humans, right? Or the memory systems and how they get embedded in the output of LLMs, right? We're seeing AI evolve in a way that it's integrating day in and day out into how we go about as humans. It is really, really exciting to see those. So today's episode, in a way, captures that from the lens of education, from the lens of graphics, visual thinking, and of course, remembering who we are. And also, maybe just firing all the executive team at Element, because I just showcased that, my friend. Ardis, super fun show. Thanks for doing this, my friend. Do you want to sign us off?
Till next time, everybody. Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.